Former governor of New Jersey, Christie, has entered the race to become the Republican candidate for the U.S. presidency with a scathing attack on Donald Trump. Mr. Christie described his one-time ally as unfit to be a leader. The former president currently leads a growing field of contenders for the party's nomination.
And Donald Trump made us smaller by dividing us even further and pitting one group against another, different groups pitted against different groups every day. And now Joe Biden is doing the very same thing, just on the other side of the political divide. He ran promising us that he was going to bring the country together, that he was going to unite us, that he was going to bring a new sense of unity to the United States. And instead, what he decided to do was to take his groups and divide them even smaller and actively pit them against Republicans. Beware of the leader in this country who you have handed leadership to, who has never made a mistake, who has never done anything wrong, who when something goes wrong, it's always someone else's fault, and who has never lost.
And our Rise U.S. correspondent Eric Ham joins me live from Washington for more on these stories. Eric, good to see you. Now, what's been the reaction to Christie launching his bid for the Republican nomination?
Well, what we're seeing here is now the number is at 10. Christie has officially announced and that he is going to be focusing all of his attention, all of his effort in the state of New Hampshire. Now, what's Christie's entry into the race, he has the highest unfavorables of any candidate in the race so far, including Donald Trump. Now, we also know that Mike Pence is announcing, or in fact, just announced that he is getting into the race in Iowa. He is staking all of his efforts in Iowa. The governor of North Dakota has now entered the race as well. So now we have 10 candidates that are in the race. But what we're seeing specifically and what makes Christie's entry unique is that Christie has made clear that he is going to be taking the fight to Donald Trump, something that we have not seen from any other so far who has entered the race, including Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Now, this is going to, of course, be interesting because we all know that Christie was someone who endorsed Donald Trump when he became the Republican nominee back in 2016. And he was also someone who over transition efforts when he became president as well. So it will be interesting to see how he's going to thread that needle to being someone who endorsed Donald Trump, who worked on his transition team, and is now attempting to thwart Donald Trump by saying that he is unfit for the nation, and how that will actually play and add him into a position where he becomes someone who is seen as a viable candidate, because right now his polling numbers does not suggest that he's there at all.
And Eric, I'm looking at the list of the 10 candidates. You're talking about Donald Trump, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Ron DeSantis, Mike Pence, and the list. So it comes to asking the kind of what would you rate the chances of Christie winning the nomination, looking at a plethora of big names?
Well, when you consider Donald Trump is still leading the field head and shoulders, and then, of course, his competitor, Ron DeSantis, who's trailing by more than 25 points, it's very difficult to see a lane or a pathway for Christie, because we know that right now, Christie is not going to compete at all in the state of Iowa. His brand of politics and his brand of campaign simply doesn't sell well in the state of Iowa. So he is betting it all on New Hampshire. And we know the first two nominating contests are going to take place in Iowa and New Hampshire. And if he cannot, or if he can perhaps somehow get some kind of traction where he is seen as a viable candidate and do well in New Hampshire, that might give him the momentum to continue to move forward. But again, this is also going to come down to how much money can he raise, and can he actually get on that debate stage in August, where we know the first Republican presidential debate is going to take place. And again, this is both a sprint and a marathon. And right now, Christie has a lot of work to do.
And Eric, I think daily we're getting to see the meaning to that maxim that the world is a global village. The wildfires in Canada have triggered air quality alerts across the U.S. So what's the latest? How bad is the air in New York and other cities?
The situation in New York is so bad that we are told that inhaling the air in New York is the equivalent of smoking 6 cigarettes. That's how bad it is. But it speaks to just how catastrophic the effects and the impacts of climate change, seeing the wildfires in Canada and how they are dramatically impacting the air quality in New York. And so what we're seeing here is this is going to be a continued effort, not only by the United States, but by the global community to try to confront this issue.
Eric, many thanks.
Thank you.